Hi people, the Employed Moth here. Got a quote I'm going to read to you and then just talk about it a bit. People want to go on being unconscious or only being conscious of the ego. They reject anything foreign that does not mirror their ideals back to them. They allow external distractions to distract them from having to think deeply about themselves. They only indulge in their own craving for power. Life is about their intention and nothing else, and if you stop their flow of attention, you become their enemy. This is the modern human, only identified with a narrow scope of their experiences in society and their persona's preservation. Now, let's just talk about it for a bit. So, people want to go on being unconscious or only conscious of the ego. So the ego is the persona that they have invented. All of the things that they've attached themselves to along their journey that makes up their character. And they either want to remain unconscious or only associated with the ego because they're protecting themselves. And they're protecting themselves from life's suffering, all the bad realities of life, the truth that underlies it, the side of life that we don't want to think about. So they remain unconscious. Anything that is considered foreign to them may upset the order that they have created. So they have a number of defense mechanisms they've put in place, and they've aligned themselves with different character traits, and anything else can actually alter that and create chaos and havoc. And they might have to start looking at life a bit more harder and trying to analyze it in more detail. That's always a problem for most people. Because once you start doing that, you start having to admit that there's going to be negative parts of life. And this is a problem. That's one of our biggest fears. So they have distractions to pass the time, take their mind off of things. They don't have to think too deeply when you're distracting yourself. You might watch a movie, you might go to a sporting event or whatever. And that can pass 2-3 hours. So you have distractions, but you also have isolation. Some people just straight up isolate themselves from some harsh realities, or they might isolate themselves from anything that can trigger all of their deeper thoughts. For example, they might isolate themselves from any kind of, knowledge, reading books, watching YouTube videos, documentaries. But what you can also have is a defense mechanism called anchoring, where to cope with life's suffering and trauma, you anchor yourself to certain ideals. Religion can be something that you anchor yourself to, a set of beliefs as well. It doesn't just have to be religious. You anchor yourself to these things so you hope that they can create some kind of meaning for you. But ultimately, most people in modern society just want to indulge in their own form of power. They want to try to improve their ego, gain ground, conquer something. It's all about their intentions and how they're expressing themselves, and If you get in the way of the attention that follows from that, then you become their enemy. You think differently to them. Their whole little project, which is all about ensuring that they are distracted, they get the validation, the likes they need. Once you get in the way of that, you become the enemy. So if you're someone who aligns themselves with the notion of free thinking or free thought, then the standard everyday mainstream person is not going to be the complete opposite to you. And you just have to put up with it, because the free thinker is a minority. You just have to put up with the mainstream type person. However, when the shoe's on the other foot, the mainstream type person gets very aggressive and angry, can make personal attacks against the free thinker. So there's a double standard that's going on in society. It's about minority and majority. So we have the modern human, only identified with a very narrow scope of experiences, because they've gone through their life never stepping outside of their comfort zone. And all they're concerned about is their persona and its preservation. You can't just have an ego death and think that everything is going to be okay. It's one of the most confronting moments of a person's life. Quite often you have men who think they're really good at fighting get beaten up in a street fight. And then they have to change their thoughts around how good they are at fighting or who they are as a person, because a part of their ego has now died. Whatever a part of what they identify with has gone. And this is the majority of people that we have out there. So I guess one way to combat this is that you then have to play a game. When you're out and about in public and you're socialising with these people at work or whatever else, you have to play into their game just to appease them. Otherwise, all you're going to do is create problems with people you meet, and at places like work, you can't really afford to be doing that. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of the world. When you're in the minority, which is the free thinkers, you have to just go with the flow sometimes, just to survive the social settings that you're involved with. And then when you get home, you can change, or you can reveal who you really are. Or if you have a close group of friends who are more free thinking orientated. So in conclusion, most people, in order to protect themselves from life suffering, they either avoid deep thought, and they have distraction, isolation, anchoring mechanisms to stop them from thinking, or they just align themselves with their ego so much that it's almost like a form of worship where they think that they can do no wrong. And it becomes narcissistic. So they either fall for the nihilism or distract themselves from it, or they become narcissistic, and these are the two problems that we face today: narcissism and nihilism. All right, anyway, I'm going to leave you to it. Catch you later.